My name is Chris Mann, and I'm gonna teach you how to debate logically. The goal of logical debate is to change your opponent's mind using logic, not trickery or logical fallacies. The whole point is to have such good logical views that your opponent changes his mind, then goes and debates other people, and they end up changing their minds too. It's supposed to be like a virtuous cycle. The more logical your view, the more people will eventually agree with you. I developed a debate style that's very efficient, very effective for getting people who disagree with me to agree with me. To debate logically, you need to follow some rules and guidelines. Almost by definition, you need to believe your views are logical. Okay? It may seem obvious, but you'd be surprised how many people admit that their own views are illogical. If your opponent asks you if your views are logical, you should say yes. It's just that easy. There's no logical reason to panic and refuse to answer. In the same way, if your opponent says he will tell someone else what your views are, there's no logical reason to panic and try to stop him. If you really believe your views are logical, you should want other people to know what your views are so that they can see that they are logical and agree with you. Okay, if your opponent asks you why you believe your views are logical, there's no reason to panic and avoid answering. Alright? Sure, there are times when it's hard to explain why you believe your views are logical because it's hard to express your feelings with words. In those cases, just say it's hard to explain and then give it your best shot. Okay? Don't act like it's an unfair question. Providing logical reasons for your logical views is a part of logical debate by definition. Okay. Now, this is really good advice, okay? You should accept the logical consequences of your views. You should be able to admit that those are indeed the logical consequences of your views. And you should be prepared for those consequences, even if they seem like bad things. That way, if your opponent tries to refute your views by pointing out their logical consequences, you can just accuse them of using a logical fallacy. Yeah, those are the logical consequences of my views. You can't refute my views simply by stating what those logical consequences are. Alright. Now, there are two major types of logical debate. There are debates about the morality of scientifically provable human actions. That's what I call moral debates, and they involve moral views. And then there are debates about scientifically provable facts, or scientific debates, and they involve scientific views. Alright? Now, there's a clear difference between the two types of debate, and let me see. Moral debates are about how humans should or should not behave. Scientific debates are about what is or isn't objectively true, and they're conducted just like you would imagine two ideal scientists would when they're arguing over the evidence. It's just like that. It's very easy to start mixing the two different kinds of debate in the same, mixing the two of them together in the same debate. And when that happens, logical fallacies occur very, very frequently. So it's best to keep them separate as much as possible. Alright? Only moral views can be used to support or refute. Only moral views can be used to refute the moral view, and only a scientific view can be used to refute the scientific view. Alright, to use one kind to support or refute the other is a kind of logical fallacy. So when someone states a moral view that you disagree with, you have to refute it by saying its opposite, or by stating a different moral view or something. You can't say, but the sky is blue, or anything like that. It doesn't make sense to say that. When someone states a scientific view that you disagree with, you have to refute it by stating its opposite or a different scientific view of your own. You know? Okay, now, when debating morality, only moral statements about scientifically provable human actions are allowed. Now, these are the kinds of actions that could be conceivably proven in ideal circumstances using today's science and technology. Now, this amounts to a very big limitation on the moral views that you can hold, because it's not possible to scientifically prove what a person is thinking or what emotions he's feeling. The more strictly you apply this rule, the better your results will be in general. This rule applies most strictly to your official, on-the-record moral views, and less strictly to your logical reasons for holding your official views. Alright, now this is the form of an acceptable moral view. It is morally good for a person to act, and then you put your scientifically provable human action. You are not allowed to be more specific than a person, because that would make it into a double standard. By definition, moral views must apply to everyone. Alright, so I'm going to give you a couple of my official, on-the-record moral views. The first one is, it is morally bad for a person to act hypocritically. This is the most important one, and you have to agree. It's mandatory, you know. I demand that everyone state this view. You may not add any exceptions, you know, without this, the word morality has no meaning. And here's how I define hypocrisy, acting hypocritically. If a person says that an action is morally good, he must do it, and he must encourage or praise it. If a person says an action is not morally good, he must not encourage or praise it. If a person says an action is not morally bad, he must not discourage or criticize it. If a person says an action is morally bad, he must not do it, and he must criticize, or he must discourage or criticize it. Okay, so it wouldn't make sense for a person to say that something is morally good and do it, but then fail to ever tell anyone else to do it. Alright, now my second moral view is, it is morally good for a person to work hard at work. Alright, this is the second most important moral view that I hold. It may not seem like much, but I get a lot of mileage out of it. You are free to disagree with it or change it or whatever, but I recommend that you accept it word for word because it is logical, and I can defend it easily against many different kinds of objections. And you can just copy my arguments, so it'll be easier for you. If you change it even a little, it becomes illogical, and I won't be able to teach you how to defend it. You'll be on your own. It is possible to scientifically prove that a person is working hard at work. Okay? The hard part is defining exactly what it means to work hard. And it's a problem that everyone struggles with. Fiscal conservatives agree with my first two moral views. And they define to work hard as to maintain or increase profits. Okay, fiscal liberals agree with the first moral view, but then they add an exception to the second. They say something like, it is morally good for a person to work hard at work unless he's not making enough money. Okay, and they don't define to work hard as simply to maintain or increase profits. They realize that it's harder to define than that. And they would oppose the view that it is morally good for a person to maintain or increase profits at work. Alright, so my views undermine both the liberal and the conservative views by defining to work hard in such a way that it includes maintaining increasing profits, and it includes physical labor, but it doesn't necessarily include mental or intellectual labor. I do physical labor at my work, and I do at my job, and I do it faster and more efficiently than everyone else. If you have a desk job, there's a good chance I consider that to be easier than physical labor. I then further undermine everyone else's views by saying I don't deserve all the wages that I currently get. I want a pay cut, and I've been asking for a specific pay cut for years. If my employer were to grant my request, I would be able to scientifically prove that I increased profits by a specific amount. I've saved up thousands of dollars that I want to give back to my company because I didn't deserve or earn it in the first place. And that's what I truly feel. I feel guilty that I make more than my coworkers who do the same exact work as I do. You know, they say that I deserve to make more than them because I'm more experienced, but after the first few raises, I stopped accepting that, and I started asking for a pay cut over and over. Not only was my request not granted, they kept giving me raises. I protested every time, but to no avail. It was like they were saying, "You deserve more money, and that's that." And there was no way out for me. Now, I no longer get raises, but that's only because I hit the pay cap for my job title. I still ask for a pay cut, but they still say no, and their reasons for saying no still don't make any sense. The most recent reason was something like the company doesn't have its permission to grant pay cuts or something. Yeah, I don't know. My desire for a pay cut undermines other people's definition of to deserve or earn a certain amount of money. And the people who run my company know this. Okay, that's probably why they don't want to give it to me. I want to work harder and harder at work for less and less money. Now imagine what would happen if everyone did this. Okay, now I'm going to try to explain. Okay, let's watch this video.